Gangeya Chambeya Tadit Vinindi Rachi Pravahas Napitatma Vrinde Bandhu Kabandhu Duti Divya Vaso Vrinde Namaste Charanaravinda.
Welcome, everybody. We'd like to welcome Jai Nitai Prabhu and Yadunatha Prabhu to this wonderful talk show. It's our second talk this once we started up again, and it's going to be on the spectrum of care. Jai Nitai Prabhu, he is the North American representative for Devotee Care, Vaishnava's Care. So we're very happy to host him. And Yadunatha Prabhu is his buddy, who also has been around for a long time. He's actually also known as a comedian. And we would hope to hear some jokes as well. So Yadunatha Prabhu, I'm going to hand it over to you for now.
Let me just get my notes. Thank you, Tamohar Prabhu.
Yeah, impersonate.
I better throw away the notes, huh? Okay. Thank you very much, Madhurya Leela, Devi. I'm really happy to be here with Jai Nitai and with you all discussing this very important topic for our society, devotee care. You did mention a couple of things about Jai Nitai, but if I may just expound slightly. Yes, he's the Devotee Care Representative for North America, along with a lot of help from his wife, Baba Bhakti. He is the coordinator of festivals at Bhakti Center in New York. He was the temple president of the Soho Temple in London for 14, count them, 14 years. And what a lot of people may not know is he was handpicked by His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj to relocate to New York City in order to build community at Bhakti Center with an emphasis on devotee care. So that's quite a ringing endorsement right there. He came to New York and took us all by storm. He won our hearts. He started serving at Matchless Gifts as well. He's very involved with Seva there, doing finances, renovations, general management. The guy is incredible. He consistently amazes me. He's a perfect representative of devotee care. He can't take hearing this stuff about himself because the truth hurts, doesn't it, Jai Nitai? Anyway, yes, he's a perfect representative of devotee care because he embodies devotee care. New people come to, I see it time and again, new people come, he immediately goes to the new people, makes them feel welcome, comfortable at home. He's got a very big heart, so much love to share, and he genuinely cares about people. So it's that authenticity that helps him become one of the best devotee care representatives. Jai Nitai, welcome to this talk.
Hare Krishna, thank you very much, Yadunatha Prabhu, for that introduction. And yes, the check is in the mail for that. And there were lots of jokes in there, lots of funny things that you spoke about. So I'm very grateful to have you here. You helped to curb my my propensity to take myself too seriously. So I'm very, very grateful for that. And I'm very grateful to all the devotees who are putting on this from the Seva Care team there in Alachua for putting these online events on and making this happen, spreading the inspiration and knowledge about devotee care, and really trying to inculcate a culture of care, embed a culture of care within the community there and throughout the world, really, whoever is able to log in. So I'm very grateful also that you have invited me to be part of it. I have a little bit of a presentation to make. So I will share my screen. Please bear with me for one moment while I try to figure out how to do this quickly and efficiently, if Krishna will see fit to do that. Okay. And I think we're off. Okay, is that good? Yadunatha, can you see it? Can I get a thumbs up? I can.
Yes, sir.
Let me see. Okay, perfect. Okay, so this is us doing the Seva Care Education episode 9 and collaboration, Seva Care and the North American Devotee Care team and initiative. So today we're going to discuss the spectrum of care and the title of Giving Love and Care, and how basically everyone wants it and everyone can give it. This is, I would say, one of the main themes of the talk today, that devotee care is not exclusive to certain group of devotees, classification, age, gender, like that, but it's actually something that is for everyone. And care is a basic need for all of us. And we'll discuss that more in depth. And really, when I was based in London, we had a part of one of our philosophies for our community care, our community development team and our mentorship system was that we wanted to look after devotees from cradle to the grave. So from the beginning of their days in the movement and beginning of their days with us until their last. So sometimes we might think the devotee care is just for those who are in a certain category or classification, but actually there's so many ways that we can show care. So I just wanted to start with a question, and I'll open up my chat box if I can. Here we go. Yeah. So it would be good to see some responses from all of you who are online. If you could just share, what do you think is devotee care? What does devotee care mean to you? Just maybe in a couple of words, a short phrase. I'm sure some of you can write whole books on it, but if you could, post it in the chat. Just first thing that comes to your mind when you hear this word, devotee care. What does it mean to you? What do you think? Being a friend. Thank you, Yadunatha. That's great. Looks like you might be my only friend here today. No one else is in typing mode, or everyone is stuck in traffic, I think, trying to get home. Amish, thank you. Amish, nice to see you. Holistic Care. And Amish, I think, is tuning in all the way from New Zealand. Mentoring, nurturing, and guiding devotees. Yes, beautiful. And Amish, yeah, confirming he's in New Zealand. And yeah. So there are many different ways that we can define devotee care, and a couple of interesting comments that were made to me once is one senior devotee recently, not so long ago, he's asked me several times the same question. He keeps saying, what is it that you do anyway? He said, what is this? What is it? Devotee care. He said, I mean, it sounds like a nice idea. What is it? And then another devotee commented, what is all this devotee care? Beep. And he said, devotee care just means you work hard for Krishna. You go to sleep, you get up the next day, and you do it all again. Isn't that what devotee care is all about? But one other senior devotee, he explained so nicely to me and to a group of us that devotee care can be synthesized into one word, and that word is sensitivity. And he explained that devotee care really means to learn to become sensitive, to develop sensitivity to the sort of needs, interests, and concerns of other people, to be able to be one-on-one with someone and be with them and understand what they need and what they require, and to serve them. And in that sense, you could say that the most basic need of all of us is to love and to be loved. And just the basic act of being a human being is that we are trying to exchange love. Anandamayo Vyasad, we're pleasure-seeking creatures, spiritual beings. We want to give to others, and we want to receive. Even if we say we may not want to receive, but of course we also love to receive. But the greatest gift, they say, is in giving. And of course, Srila Prabhupada and Rupa Goswami gave us this in the loving exchanges, sadvidam prati lakshanam, that this devotee care, devotee relationships is founded on these loving exchanges between us. This is Vaishnav Seva. This is what devotee care is in its essence. It is Vaishnav Seva. And we share gifts. We exchange gifts. And I've always understood it doesn't just mean necessarily like a physical gift, like I got you a birthday present or a Christmas gift or something for Diwali or Janmashtami, but I can also exchange a gift of knowledge. I can exchange a gift of a talent or a skill or an ability that I have. And we can exchange those kind of gifts. We can exchange confidential interactions where I reveal my heart, you reveal your heart. I listen, you listen, we hear each other, and we really have a loving exchange. And of course, the favorite loving exchange for everyone is prasadam. And that is one unfortunate thing about the Zoom era, that we haven't quite manifested the ability to exchange prasadam on Zoom, but maybe in the future, who knows? So I love this. I was speaking with a good friend earlier, and I asked them for the quote because I had heard this before, and they said this is a paraphrase of something that His Grace Ravinda Swarup Prabhu said, that at first you join the Hare Krishna movement and you become a devotee. Then you work hard on your sadhana and you become a pure devotee. And then if you're lucky, you'll make great progress and you'll become a human being. So sometimes it's like that. We aspire for great heights of transcendence, but at the end of the day, the simplest way to show love and to show care is to simply to be a good person with someone else and to give them the care that they need. Speaking with some other leaders about the principle of devotee care, they invited us, my wife and I, to go there and to teach the devotee care course. And they were saying, and I loved it because they said, we don't want you to just come here and talk to us about devotee care, devotee care, devotee care. We want to know practically how to implement devotee care and what we're supposed to do with devotee care. And then in our conversation, it went on, and they were kind of carrying on from this idea of just becoming a human being, about how what they see is in the communities, the devotees just need to learn to get along, learn to listen to each other with the intention of hearing and understanding and really genuinely learning to listen. And I think this is one of the simplest ways that we can immediately, without any expenditure, that we just learn to sit and listen to each other and really try to understand with a sincere heart what the other person is saying. And I encourage each and every one of you after this call to just take a moment and go and ask your partner or your children or your boss or neighbor or whoever, your roommate, and just ask them how they are. And we always tell this humorous story. My wife, she would do pujari service and in London, and there was a very wonderful devotee, but he would always come in sort of last minute to get ready for his pujari service. And as he would walk by her, he would say, "Hare Bol, how are you?" And then before she could answer, he had already left the room. So he was in another room. So she would be like, "Well, I wonder if he actually cares. Is that just a salutation, or does he actually really care?" So one day he walked in and she said, he said, "How are you?" And he walked off. But as he was walking off, she said, "Oh, I've got bad news. I've been diagnosed with cancer." And he just said, "Oh, Hare Bol," and he just walked away. And so sometimes we can be so busy. And I often tell the story, some devotees I met with after they came back from a wonderful retreat with His Holiness Bhakti Charu Swami. And they had been serving together for close to 30 years in the same temple. And they said, we realized that in 30 years, the only thing we've ever said to each other is Hare Bol. Yeah. And they realized that in this retreat, they were put together in little groups and they got to know each other, and they realized they had so much in common, and they couldn't believe that for 30 years, they just had not genuinely interacted with each other. So it's such an important and simple thing that we just actually learn to become human and be human and respect and appreciate each other and give each other time, which, as we know, is more valuable than money. So this is an example that's set by our founder, Acharya Srila Prabhupada, who listened for hours, serving at Matchless Gifts Now, feeling so honored and blessed to be serving in this holiest of holy dhams. And every week we hear this introduction letter from His Holiness Satsrup Maharaj, where he tells us how in the early days Srila Prabhupada would have programs on the Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, and on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, he would meet in private with devotees in his room at the back of 26 Second Avenue. And I just think, gosh, when you look at the videos, what kind of people, the state people were in when they were coming, and Prabhupada would sit for hours and give them attention. Someone was saying the other day that probably many of those devotees wouldn't even be allowed in the temples these days. But Prabhupada would sit for hours with them, and look what manifested by that kind love and attention. And we can see here, Srila Prabhupada would sign his letters. I hope this meets you in good health, your ever well-wisher. So Prabhupada just setting the perfect example of love and care and attention, the simplest way to have the most profound effect on someone's life. And I was trying to think of how are all the different ways that Srila Prabhupada showed care. And I was initially writing them in the notes section of the slide. And then I realized this is an amazing list. So I thought, let me just put it out there and read it and share just the things that came immediately. And I'm sure we could fill up pages and pages. But Srila Prabhupada cooked, he cleaned, he trained how to do the accounts, how to manage institutions, how to publish books and run a publishing company, how to edit, how to type. He bought saris for Jamuna and the ladies. He brought them back. He taught them how to dress in the saris. He taught them the men how to dress. He taught us how to chant, to preach. He gave regular medical advice to devotees. He gave marriage advice. He arranged immigration for the devotees, went through a whole thing with trying to get devotees into India. He built guest houses and accommodations specifically to suit the needs of the devotees. He taught how to be ethical and how to conduct ourselves as perfect ladies and gentlemen, also how to conduct ourselves in harmony with nature, teaching the principle of simple living and high thinking. He started farm communities to teach us how to work with the land, how to protect the cows, how to deal with legal matters for devotees, like during the draft to the Vietnam War, and simply showed immense love and care by personally writing thousands of letters in response to questions. He was traveling, writing, lecturing, and selflessly giving his life out of care for all of us. So if we want the perfect example of someone who epitomizes the spectrum of care in one person, and I remember hearing someone say that none of us or none of Srila Prabhupada's disciples can perfectly emulate Prabhupada in the sense of fulfilling all those things, but everyone is like a little spark of his splendor, of his excellence. Everyone represents like one piece of what Prabhupada did. We can see here how many of us can do exactly what Srila Prabhupada did, but he is the emblem, the epitome of the spectrum of care. So devotee care is not just a talk. It's not just a project or another aspect of a project. It's not just a department that we set up or an office that we try to set up, but it's a culture that needs to be cultivated, and it is a consciousness that needs to become second nature. Devotee care, as I mentioned earlier, is Vaishnav Seva, and it's something that should naturally and automatically pour out of our hearts And it isn't something that really we should even have to have big talks and lectures about discussing what is it, why is it, how is it, where is it. We shouldn't even need to talk about it. It should just be something that naturally pours from our hearts. But often, which is the nature of Kali Yuga, we're often just too busy to care. That's just the way it is. We're just so wrapped up in so many things that we don't have time to really care for the people. So devotee care is not only for those who are sick or those who are elderly in age or those who are on their way out, about to pass from this world and leave their bodies. Of course, devotee care is for these personalities, but often when I ask the question, what is devotee care? People say it's for the sick devotees, it's for elderly devotees, it's for dying devotees. And absolutely, it is for them, for sure. In one sense, you may argue they might need it the most, especially at those critical times. But somehow, a lot of people just think that that is what devotee care is. And actually, devotee care is for everyone of all ages and classifications and stages of life. And we can all learn to care for others in simple ways that are natural for us. And we can't wait until we get to the end of our own life to realize, oh, I need to learn to care, or I need care. Was with some senior devotees. We were helping to set up the devotee care office in Bhaktivedanta Manor. And a couple of very senior devotees came and they said, so many of us are in our 60s, 70s, even moving into our 80s. And, where is the system of care? And I was like, well, it's going to take time. It's going to take time to set that system up. And unfortunately, we only really started practically thinking about it when someone was ringing the bell, because like a lot of our senior members started to kind of check out. And it's like, well, what do we do now? So these kind of things, it's not just for the elderly, but it's something that even the youngsters, I'm not so young anymore, but in a young stage, that we need to really be thinking about how to look after each other, how to look after our children, how to look after our families, how to look after so many things. So we're going to discuss this in the spectrum of care. And there was an international team of devotees that was headed by a Prabhupada disciple named Rasmandala Prabhu. Many of you are familiar with. He's a great educationalist. And he put together a course called the Devotee Care Course, which my wife and I are traveling and teaching. And inside of that course, they developed this thing called the Spectrum of Care. And it lists 12 areas of care and 12 recipients of care. And when these 12 areas and 12 recipients are combined together, it creates this amazing matrix of individual and personal needs, interests, and concerns for every individual, no matter what stage of life they're in, and how we all need care in these specific areas, either now, in the future, or we needed it in the past, and maybe sometimes we didn't get it. So the first aspect is the 12 areas of devotee care. And those of you who may have attended the course, you're aware of these, but those who haven't, we discuss spiritual life, healthcare, which is divided into physical and mental, marriage, married life, child rearing, education, career, employment, finance, housing, travel and immigration, consumer and lifestyle, legal advice. And then, yes, of course, sometimes even within the Hare Krishna movement, we need mediation. Believe it or not, yes, sometimes devotees do not agree on all things. So these areas, and some of them people may think, what has that got to do with the International Society for Krishna Consciousness? Here they are explained a little bit more in depth. You can glance over those, and we can see that this is very intricate, very well thought out. And if we're honest, every single person on this call, and I can't even see all the people on the call, have needed or are currently in need of some care probably in these areas. And it's not something that is excluded from the idea of care. Looking after finances, like a wonderful example. That's one that I often hear people say, "Well, what do you mean? Like, ISKCON is meant to look after people's finances?" Well, maybe not exactly, but something we can discuss a little bit later. But here we have an example from Chaitanya Charitamrita, where Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself personally instructed Shivananda Sain, who was an exceptionally well-to-do, qualified, capable person, and he instructed him to become the secretary and person to help Vasudev Dutt, who had this tendency to spend money very liberally. So Lord Chaitanya instructed him to become his secretary and help to curb that and make sure that everything stayed in check. And as we're reading the pages of Chaitanya Charitamrita, so many ecstatic pastimes that you might think, why would Lord Chaitanya, what does that, it sounds so mundane. And Vasudev Dutt, being such an exalted, saintly person who himself wanted to take on all the reactions, all the karma, all the sinful reactions of everyone on the whole planet or in the whole universe, and just take that on. That was his mood. His mood was so liberal, but still the man could not manage his finances. So Lord Chaitanya very practically asked Shivananda Sain to care for him, to look after him. And this is such an important point. So Prabhupada also made this comment, keep your health in good condition and work very hard for Krishna. So yeah, working hard for Krishna is absolutely there, but Prabhupada also encouraged us to take care of the body because it belonged to Krishna. And we know there are many pastimes, and I can extrapolate in so many ways on each one of these. But Prabhupada says this is our motto of life, to keep the body fit and work hard for Krishna. So this is the mood of devotee care and Vaishnava Seva, that we do have to look after ourselves. We do have to help look after others in all of these different areas that were just mentioned. And there are many recipients, 12 recipients of care that are listed here. We have ladies and cows and brahmanas, children and youth, elderly, brahmacharis, grihastas, vanaprasthas, sannyasis, other temple residents, leaders, and senior devotees. So we have all these different recipients of care. And we should understand that these lists are not completely exhaustive. It's not everything isn't included, but it is a very, very good place to start and a great compass for helping to guide us in how we can look to expand and develop different initiatives to care for devotees in these different areas. So we see here how this is broken down and understanding. Sometimes people say, what is this other temple residence? So it can mean community residents, and it can also mean staff, especially those for larger projects. We have leaders, we have Prabhupada disciples and other pioneers. So many devotees have given so much. And as I mentioned before, if we amalgamate these two together, then it creates this incredible matrix of individual and personal needs, interests, and concerns for people. And also, it begins to show us how each and every one of us, regardless of our age, regardless of our social classification or the stage of life that we're at, that we can engage in this principle of devotee care. It is not just for, as I mentioned earlier, those who are in the later stages or 6 stages of life, but also those who are apparently completely healthy may still need help with immigration or travel. I know one of the things that there's a devotee in touch with me at the moment, coming from London with his family. He's coming to try to spend a couple of weeks here in the US and visit different centers. And he keeps messaging me, we're trying to go here. Do you know anybody there? Can you put us in touch with someone there? We want to go here, but the website's not working and I can't book a room. And, it's like, come on, hasn't everyone dealt with this themselves? And I'm thinking, hey, Bubba, I got a lot of things to do here. I'm not just sitting around trying to answer your messages. But I keep thinking, no, this is what makes a difference. And it is what makes a massive difference to people's lives when they reach out because they need help. And with the simplest things, we're able to try to assist them. Of course, it can be very annoying to the people who are running the projects that they've got some guy trying to help people and he's just bugging them. But at the same time, that's also care because we're caring for their project and their initiative and trying to help them as leaders facilitate people coming into their project. So in this way, when we try to genuinely care and look after different people in different situations, and Srila Prabhupada, he explains in the first canto of the Bhagavatam that in the glory days of Vedic culture, before the advent of Kali Yuga, and we're not going to use this as an excuse that we're in Kali Yuga, so everything you said before this, Jai Nitai, is negated and null and void, but the brahmanas, the cows, the women, the children, and the old men were properly given protection. And it's very interesting in that purport, Srila Prabhupada explains so nicely how this is, why this is, and the wonderful impact that it has on society, how you create a society. And this is one of the keys for me around devotee care is that SKCON will grow and develop, Varnashram will manifest through this principle of care, because when we implement care into our communities, we start to develop society and social structure, because we start to realize how each and every one of us have specific gifts and talents that can be offered to one another to assist and to help each other to grow and to develop, to prosper in our spiritual lives and also in our material lives. It's not that it's just material and spiritual. When I go to the temple, that's my spiritual life. And when I'm at home, no, all of it should become our spiritual life. Everything that we do, just like Shivananda Sain was trying to help Vasudev Dutt. So like that. So to this end, since taking up this service in North America, we're trying to pull together all of the different devotees and communities that have developed, and we see that we have around 18 different communities where the devotee care course has been run or will be run, and many places have started to develop these either community care offices or devotee care offices, and they're trying to do things. And there are also many initiatives nationally and internationally that fit into these different categories. You so wonderfully had Rambaru Devi here last week and or last month, and she is just such an exceptional person, which she has done to give care and show care of her own accord, just doing it because she knows it needs to be done. That is such a beautiful, shining example. At the Bhakti Center, we recently put together a directory that lists all the different ways and places that we could see where devotees might need to get care and need care. Either it's from you could say the secular community, like if it's something offered by the city or by the state or by the local government or by local charities, or things within our own communities, people that can help out being a handyman, being a painter, being an electrician, someone who can do your plumbing, someone who's a lawyer, someone who's like this. So in this way, we're building and strengthening communities. So out of all of these different devotee care offices, I just want to specifically point out and appreciate the Seva Care initiative that's happening there in Alachua. I'm kind of like a silent member on their WhatsApp group. They're probably wondering why the heck this guy hasn't left the group. Even my wife has said, why are you still in the group? And I'm there because I get inspiration when I see like the devotees coming up to Jamashtami and they're just talking about how they can care. They're putting together care kits. They're introducing training for first aid and health and safety. They're looking at this devotee needs someone to deliver prasadam to them. And so many different initiatives that the Seva Care team is putting together. And I just really want to, I think there's like 21 devotees on that team, on that WhatsApp group that are all working together and just Many of them I was so fortunate and blessed to meet when we came to Alachua to run the course, and we were there a couple of times. It's just such a wonderful community, massive community, the huge potential for really establishing and developing and creating this culture of care, really embedding it in so many ways. So thank you to Shukada Devi and Ragatmika Devi, Tamohar Prabhu, of course, who's heading it up, Madhurya Leela, who's one of my great heroes. I actually want to get a poster of her and put it on my wall because she's so wonderful, everything she does. Prasanatma Prabhu, Mahesh Prabhu, Shalagram, Lalita, Surit, and so many others. And I just wanted to say thank you to all of you for all the amazing efforts that you're doing. And I've kind of squeezed a lot into a small space, but I just want to now turn it over for some reflections and questions, creating a time and space for all of you to share and open up your hearts. And I ask Yadunatha Prabhu to please help facilitate that. Please forgive me for rambling on at the speed of knots. Hare Krishna.
You had a lot that you wanted to share with us, and we started a little bit late, a little bit short on time. We want to keep enough time for questions and comments. I thought that was an amazing presentation. I wish you were a little bit more passionate about the subject, but you can work on that.
Okay, I'll try.
Your passion is inspiring for us. You know, it's really the way to get people involved. We can take people's questions. You can put something in the chat here, or you can just raise your hand. If you raise your hand, though, since I'm not seeing everybody, raise your hand with the by clicking the react icon, and then there's a raise a hand feature. So you do it that way, because I might not see you if you do this. We welcome your reflections, your discoveries, realizations, comments, questions, anything like that. Before we get that rolling, I just want to, I think maybe you didn't see a few of the answers that came in the chat about what is devotee care. Financial help guidance, which may have been a controversial one before we heard your presentation, but now it makes sense to us. Staying aware of who needs assistance and loving care and attention, especially knowing wants and needs in community. Keep building teams for end-of-life care. Non-judgment, compassion, empathy. These things mean devotee care. So here's a question from one Gaur Kumar Das. When self-care and devotee care seem to conflict, how do we serve without neglecting ourselves? That's a really prudent question. What about self-care? Does that factor in here somewhere? How do you?
Yeah, beautiful. Sorry, go ahead.
No, just how do you navigate this?
Yeah, beautiful. And actually, the first aspect of care in oneself, based also on what Srila Prabhupada said in different places, is that we have to save ourselves first before we can save others. I also many years ago did some training as a lifeguard, and I was astonished at one point. This is some years ago, but they said that sometimes first you have to make sure that you can survive before you jump in to try to save someone else. And there was also this thing about that sometimes if people are so erratic and flailing, sometimes you have to knock them out and be able to take them in safely. So we're not promoting that, just by the way. That's not what I'm saying. But the principle is that we have to look after ourselves in order to be able to help others. How can we help someone else if we ourselves are in a state of dire need, a state of bad health, or a state of imbalance in our own lives? So of course, self-care is the primary thing, and of course, it can come into conflict. We often hear that, yeah, I want to die on the battlefield, and I don't. But that doesn't mean that we don't look after ourselves. Srila Prabhupada, again, being the ambassador of also self-care, he was extremely regulated. He was every morning, he was going for these morning walks after he had that incident. I think it was in New York with the stroke, and the doctor said, the old Swami, he prays too much. He needs to go for a walk. And Prabhupada started his morning walks after that. He would every day have at least one massage, if not more. He was regulated in what he ate, the time he ate. He was looking after himself, obviously, spiritually. So Prabhupada was able to give so much because he also looked after himself, but he still also pushed himself to the limits of trying to give as much as he could. So yeah, we have to find the balance, and that balance will be different for different people. We gave a talk once with Mahatma Prabhu and through the RGB, and his I can highly recommend. Mahatma Prabhu has this amazing course on his Sattva platform around self-care. So this is also something that we should listen to, go through, and definitely we should look after ourselves. So without that, you can't look after others. Hope that answers the question. Who was that? Gore Kumar. Okay.
Yes, Damayanti says helplines, crisis management, and 12 by 12 recovery awareness in order to lay down control and accept what Lord Krishna sends.
I'm not sure if Damayanti wants to expand on that, and also I see Madhurya Leela has her hand raised, and
Yes.
I think Tamahar Prabhu is also with us. I don't know if he has anything he would like to add or subtract.
Oh, is he here? I didn't see he came out. Okay, let's go to Madhurya Leela first, and Tamahar Prabhu. We'd love to hear from you if you have something to add when she's done.
Thank you, Jai Nitai Prabhu, for the wonderful talk. I really like the point that you made about how Srila Prabhupada's various ways of helping devotees. There's a huge list, and it reminded me of how Sanatana Goswami used to go around to all the villages and help devotees in the same way, and so nobody's ever too big to help one another and care for them, like. So you could be renounced, or it doesn't matter, the loving care still has to be there. So one of my questions is, a lot of the second generation, they do care and they do have loving exchanges, and often it's within their own circles. So we have a challenge in how to get them involved in the bigger group, how to promote that. And I don't know if you have any suggestions on doing that.
Yeah, beautiful. Great question, and also a big challenge. And I mentioned, and I've had conversations with Swami Bhagavan Keshav Maharaj, who's obviously a great leader amongst the youth, and especially in the UK. And we were finding that even trying to get the youth involved with this principle of devotee care, many of them were inspired, but somehow they really had this misconception of what devotee care is, and not really understanding that it was something that you need to do. And it may just be part of the stage of life that we kind of are really in the I, me, and my stage, even as devotees, that we're kind of absorbed in trying to get our own lives together, coming out of teenage years and just getting married or having children and so many things. But actually, that's a time when often we need the most, a lot of care and a lot of support, and also the time when we can also help others. So I think really having programs like this, and creating a space and letting people know that they're welcomed to be involved. And once they get involved, then others will see. So in that way, we were just discussing earlier today that often, a lot of times, people in our communities don't know that they can be involved in certain things. So somehow we have to make extra efforts to specifically invite them in and accept their gifts and see what their contribution could be, see how they feel that they could be involved, or what they see in their community. Like you said, we find ourselves in little pockets of sanghas or communities, and see what do their communities need, how can we help, how can they help, how can we all work together to assist and progress our society as a whole. I don't know that there's an easy answer for that one, but I think it's a wonderful question, and one I'd like to continue to work on trying to resolve.
worth further exploration for sure. Yes, Tamaha Prabhu, I can see you now.
Hare Krishna. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
First of all, my most sincere apologies for coming on late, some unavoidable circumstances. But anyway, I heard all of the talk and it was really, really wonderful and so much appreciated. Um, we've looked at that spectrum of care, those 12 different areas of several times, and kind of it's obviously every devotee care community or group is not going to be able to do all of them very thoroughly. And so
Yeah.
we all have to pick our priorities. And interestingly enough, when you're saying devotee care is not just for old people and sick people like that, we absolutely agree. And we want to expand that. But you also have to tailor devotee care towards your individual community. And in our particular community in Alachua, the fact of the matter is we do have a lot of old, sick, and dying devotees. So we've tended to focus, somewhat in that area, I think. But so obviously that's very important. And the thing is, the young people have to realize, give them 20, 30, 40 years, you're all going to be in that same situation. And I think that's why we need to start building our communities early on. As far as that question about, yeah, it has been difficult to get a lot of the younger people engaged. And I think it's real simple. It's just they're busy. It's just I think they do care. They can, of course, education helps, but it's a sort of a life developmental stage. When you have young children, you're working full time, whatever. It's difficult, to do a lot. And I don't know if you may have other areas and how to engage people in simple ways or whatever, but something we still need to keep working on.
Yeah, thank you so much for that, Tamahar Prabhu. And it is true. That's exactly it. And I'm grateful to you for bringing that point out, that for sure we can't be effective in all 12 areas, and we have to see what is a priority in our area, and that will be different. And I remember in one community, I was surprised when they chose the other temple residents. I'm like, nobody ever chooses that, but they had so many other residents and full-time employees who were kind of connected in that community, that they saw that that was a real need for that area. And as you mentioned, Alachua is obviously well known for having so many Prabhupada disciples and next generation devotees who are there. And so it's obviously a priority. The interesting thing on that is that what I see in a lot of places is that instead of the youth being involved in helping to care for those who are elder and senior, a lot of times you have the elder and senior people trying to look after the elder and senior people. And that's not really the way this social structure is meant to be. And it's beautiful in the sense that that love and care is there, but actually, really, we need for the younger generation to come up and understand that, yes, as you just said, in 20 years, 30 years, I'm going to be in that same situation. So while I'm young and fit, let me give the support and care that is needed to that generation. And of course, it may be motivated that in hopes in the future that will create the culture where I'm also looked after. And we see in, you could say, more traditional cultures, that is the sort of thing that happens. Families live together, extended families. That isn't so much of a thing in our Western culture, or Western anti-culture maybe. But this kind of thing needs to be started. So that is definitely something that I see that is a concern, that a lot of times it's actually the older generation who are looking after each other. And we really need the younger generation to become involved, step up, and really, have a place and understanding that this is actually part of our dharma now also, to look after the older generation. But I think the culture in the West, I know I grew up with it. We didn't have extended family. And basically when grandma got to a certain age, you whack her in an old age home, and like you go and visit her on Sundays with some cupcakes or something. And that's kind of it. Whereas I know now, interacting with different devotees from different cultures, that sometimes it's a very loving atmosphere that's created for a person to live out their final days of their life. But anyway, that's a very big topic. But thank you for bringing it up, and please forgive me if I overstep my mark by saying anything there. Madhurya Leela Devi, you have your.
Yeah.
Well, we have a wonderful example of the second generation participating in spiritual care of everybody, not just their generation, but the whole community. Just last week when we had the Julan Yatra 5-day festival, Krishna Kishore single-handedly organized this festival for all the devotees. Every night there was a program, and the swinging of the deities, and Dinabandhu Prabhu was here from Vrindavan. He spoke
Oh, beautiful.
different leelas, and it was just a very beautiful, and there was prasadam, you know, all free prasadam. His father cooked all the prasadam. So there's a wonderful example of how he, you know, heading up a spiritual care for the devotees.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Yeah, and like this, it just takes one or two devotees leading things like that. They become exemplars, and then others will follow. So this is wonderful. Yes, someone else. Oh, it was the devotees in Phoenix were just sharing with me that their Balaram Jayanti festival was completely run by the second generation of devotees that they have there, and many of them were devotees that they had in like their Krishna club when they were kids, and now they're like teenagers, 16, 17, 18. So we have to start somewhere. It may not be something that we see in the next year or two, but if we keep trying and keep speaking and keep encouraging, then hopefully it will be something for definitely future generations.
Nice.
Big topic.
Damayanti has quite a few suggestions in the
Hmm.
chat, which are really interesting. Well, as we're winding down here, I just kind of want to get to something a little practical and ask if somebody is watching right now whom you've inspired and wants to start a devotee care program, a devotee care office in their center or temple, what have you. How can they do that? Are there any resources, support systems for them?
Yes, beautiful. And one of the things I neglected to do in my presentation, and we can put it in the slide, is you can reach out to myself on info@nadevoteecare.com, and we can be in touch with you in order to maybe, if, I don't know if someone could put that in the chat like that. Then we're happy to have online session and chat about things, and also happy to come and run the devotee care course and discuss. We're currently doing that with a couple of different centers in North America, and yeah, so I would say that would be the initial stage, and there are many different places that are doing it, and all of them are taking on, you could say, their own unique shape according to, as Tamahar Prabhu was mentioning, the unique needs of each different community.
Great. That's great. Yeah, I love, you know, Tamahar Prabhu, with a little smile on your face, you said, well, in Alachua, there are a lot of elderly devotees, so we do focus on these things. And I thought, that's not funny or anything. That's really personal. That's not just taking a template or a system and trying to implant it somewhere. You're looking at the needs of your community and you're meeting those needs. I think that's exactly what we need to be doing. I think I'll hand it over to you at this point, and we're approaching 7 o'clock. I mean 8 o'clock. I'm sorry. Are there any other questions out there that maybe we can quickly take in?
Got a minute or two left. If anybody has a last question.
Hare Krishna.
Yes.
Hare Krishna.
I can't think what that is, but please go ahead.
It's Shalagram Devi Dasi.
Haribol, Shalagram Devi. Nice to
Hare
hear
Krishna.
from you. It'd be lovely to see you.
I think one situation that I run into, or it seems to be common, is that, some of these wonderful devotees that we are reaching out to, or we know just by physical appearance, or just by, the body going through its changes, that they need, some kind of assistance. However, when you approach them, they're like, no, I'm good. And, you know, so how, it takes a little more, a little more creativity to get into their world, so to speak, or to allow them to let you into their world. And, I don't know if it's kind of like, I guess there's, I tell them, oh, of course your house isn't clean. I can see that your body won't allow you to clean your house, so it's okay. I'm not going to judge you if I come into your home and it's not clean, but I want to talk to you, and I want to, I want to listen to you. But it just seems like you can't really, they don't allow you to cross a certain, they put up walls and barriers to a certain degree. And so it just seems like it's almost like you just have to keep whittling away, so to speak, in order to, for them to, let you in, so to
Get in
speak.
there. Yeah, that's really, really powerful and important statement. And interesting, Damayanti Devi, I see she wrote in the chat, false pride born of hurt, never give up. And actually, I was thinking, it's not, as you were saying that, I was thinking, God, that's not just in like even older or senior people. I have the same thing. If I do something, I don't want anyone to do anything for me. I just want to be independent and be able to do it on my own. I don't want to feel like and I guess that's a natural inclination of someone trying to become a devotee. We don't want to take service from others. But when you were talking, I was thinking you've already answered your own kind of question or statement that, yeah, we just have to rack our brains and be persistent and creative in how we can kind of wiggle our way in the door, because it's actually about trust and developing the relationship where a person trusts that, because especially when we get older or when we're sick and we're in that state, it's a very vulnerable condition. It's a very vulnerable condition. And, people may see us at our worst. And, we don't feel comfortable with that. And it is for sure. It's false pride, it's false ego, whatever. But yeah, we need to have, and that's why devotee care really begins before we get to that stage, so that we've developed a community and relationships within the community that we know people who can be there with us and for us in that time, and we trust them and we love them, and it's okay. They can see that worst side of us, and our house isn't clean, or we're not clean, or whatever it is. And that feeling of vulnerability is diminished in some way, that we feel like we can trust this person and we have this loving relationship. So anyway, I think with people who haven't had a chance to build that with you, then that's going to take time to build. But knowing you're very creative, very loving, very caring. I'm sure you'll come up with a great way to get in there to help them out. And yeah, I like this persistence. Never give up. Just keep letting them know that, yeah, I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to keep coming and keep trying to give love, and eventually they'll submit, or relent in that way. Anyway, that's my thinking on it. I'm sure there are many other wonderful answers and devotees here who are doing so much more practically than me. So I'm just speaking philosophically.
Well, we're probably at the time to start wrapping up here. I really like that you ended on that final point, though, of developing trust and relationships, because I think that is so critical, and that's really, and that's how you began, really, saying that devotee
Yeah.
care is about an attitude. It's a state of mind. It's a way of looking at devotees and our relationships with them, and how we interact with devotees at all stages of life in all these different ways. So I just thought this was a wonderful talk. I always enjoy you so much, hearing from you, Jai Nitai Prabhu. And Yadunatha Prabhu, thank you so much also for being on with us. I think this was one of our really, really good talks. And again, our thanks. And we want to continue to work with Jai Nitai. We were thrilled that he became the director of the North American Office of Devotee Care, and we certainly hope to gain your help and assistance throughout the years working with Seva Care here in Alachua. Yeah, so thank you again.
A great honor
Thank
and
you.
privilege. Thank you so much, Tama Harper, for everything you're doing, and Mother Madhurya
Okay.
Leela and all the devotees. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. I want to introduce our next Seva Care education offering. Next month, it will be September, I lost it here, 8th. It's Monday, September 8th, 7 o'clock. We're very excited that we have Partha and Uttama Prabhu from the Grihastha Vision team will be with us. They are probably one of the top Grihastha seminar leaders, trainers, counselors, educators in the world. They travel all over the world doing their programs. When they were in now, one way we were talking about engaging the younger people. Interestingly enough, they came last year to Alachua and did a 3-day seminar, and we had like 65 devotees participate, most of them of the younger generation. So we were really happy to see that. And I think that that also goes to show that if our programming matches the interests of the recipients, then we're going to get their buy-in and get their interest in that. So anyway, they will be doing, I think it's going to be a really interesting seminar. It's called Staying in Your Higher Self, or Remaining in Our Higher Self, the Key to Healthy Relationships. And the short description they've given us so far says, acting from our lower self can sabotage our relationships. We all know that. Connection only happens when we are in our higher self. So I think that's going to be a fascinating look at relationships, and something that couples and everyone will be very interested in hearing about. So that again is September the 8th, which is a Monday next month. And thank you again, Jai Nitai Prabhu and Yadunatha Prabhu.
Samasta Vaikunta Shiromanasi Krishnasya Vrindavana Danyatani Tatadikare Vishabhanuputra Vrinde Namaste Charanaravind